these different situations that keep popping up in my life, taking me through these different struggles. What is God trying to say? And I heard God saying, stay in the present moment. So today I want to talk about staying in the present moment. BJ, in partial requirements, are writing an impressive sermon on being present. I feel that one should do some historical research regarding the definition of what it means. Doing some research and study, I learned that present means being, existing, Brandon, occurring at this time and now, which simply means, Johnny, being here. Turn to your neighbor right now and ask them, are you present? Recognize from a deeper study that present means to furnish or endow with a gift. I looked a little further and acknowledged that present means to bring, offer, or give, often in a formal or ceremonious way. Rionica, looking at these practical and reasonable meanings of the word present, I was able to formulate a spiritual understanding of this word present. And I came to the understanding that present means Elton prize. Present means prize. And because I am the prize, that, Miss Davis, makes me the present. Being present is the act of or action towards. A present being presented or someone being present. So in this inspiring sermon, I've searched myself and came to understand what staying in the present moment, Krishanda, means, and would like to talk to you about a few ways how I've learned how to stay in the present moment. During Christmas when I was growing up, Johnny, as a child in my house, seemed like the best Christmases a child could have. Most of what I got, I asked for, and most of what I didn't get, 9 times out of 10, I would get it later on. I can honestly say that what society perpetuated about the youngest upper middle class child during that time about being spoiled was true. I would concur that being spoiled is staying in the present moment. I can't get a witness in here today. I know we're few in numbers, but can I get some help? In that time during the holidays, I was so spoiled, brother, so much I would forget about everything else and just spoil myself. I can remember a couple of Christmases when I was younger, BJ. I brought everyone that would come to our Christmases a 10 or 12 pack of gum. Dad would give me and my brothers $300 to go shopping every year. It was really easy because most of our Christmases shopping was at Walmart, and Walmart is really cheap, so I would just go to the candy and gum section thinking this is something, Brandon, that everyone can use from time to time, especially, Miss Davis, my older brother Taylor. My brother Taylor would have some of the foulest breath, so this seemed to be the perfect Christmas present for him. I would knock all of my Christmas shopping out in one blow. Then I would proceed to buy things for myself. Sports gear, video games, different toys, or whatever I thought was cool that I thought I should have. When you love yourself, BJ, and spoil yourself, you also think and understand others. What others need. Let me say that again. When you love yourself and spoil yourself, you also think and understand what others need as opposed to what others desire. I knew my brother needed mid-fresh gum. A young, handsome black man in middle school, just starting to understand what it means to be aroused by a girl cannot approach her with breast cancer and expect healthy results. No, you'll get cancerous results. So it was my duty as being a brother and staying in the present moment to give him breast cancer treatment. Some of us in here right now at this time are sitting down with breast cancer. So I encourage those that spoil themselves so greatly to reach out to them, understand what they need as opposed to what they want, and get them some treatment. Understand that you are spoiled, that you do not want to smell someone's bad breath. By this, you are able to stay in the present moment and help the individual with what they need. Staying in the present moment is being present and receiving everything that God has for you. Johnny, I was aware that during Christmas that I had to give everyone a gift. And on top of that, I was smart enough to get everyone a gift that I knew that they could use. So I didn't limit my presents. I saw fit to get everything that God had for me. Turn to someone and say, a fair trade isn't stealing.
Fair trade.
A fair trade isn't stealing. I guarantee if I was not